This tutorial is basically just a brief hint about how to use extreme lighting and very simple lighting. Simple and effective. When we model things in 3D or create scenes in 3D, they sometimes look quite depressing. Like this one, for example. Let's get closer to this thing here. I have a cylinder with a few cutout faces, and there's a light shining in here. That's my first light. It's a spotlight, just a genuine Maya spotlight, which is rendered in Arnold. And there's an object down here which just sits there, and I want to hide parts of the object because it was more or less randomly created using the Prosets plugin, but you can do this with some extrusion and rotating procedures as well. So whatever kind of object is there, and there's a camera sitting here looking at this object, and I don't want to see this. That's why I moved it further down, and that's basically the whole setting. So we have two lights in the scene, the spotlight up here. If we want to look through that spotlight, let's do this now. This is very important, and you should always do this when you position a spotlight correctly. It works best with spotlights, really. You tap the spacebar just briefly and go to one of the other windows, for example this one, and now you press and hold the spacebar and go to panels and look through selected. So you select the light first, and then you use this menu here. There are other ways to get there, but this is the way I always walk here, and now I'm looking through that light via this window here. That's why it's distorted, why it's more or less a very wide angle, and of course we can go here and you see the light effect now adjusted a little bit. Depends on the graphic card. My graphics card is quite good, but still I'm not satisfied with what I see here. Doesn't matter. So when you move your mouse here with the Alt key, this adapts accordingly, and it actually changes the position of that spotlight. So it has a penumbra angle which is right here, but nothing really fancy. Penumbra makes the rim a little bit more soft. That's basically it. So let's go back to this view here, and I want to show you a rendering now. So let's render it, and this looks quite amazing. The edges come from a Toon shader, so I applied the AI Toon shader to that object. Let's have a look where it sits. I just selected, right mouse click and material attributes, and here is the AI Toon shader with a few settings here which I applied. I think most of them don't turn up in this white rendering. We have a menu here in Arnold under the utilities, which is called the Light Manager. And we have two lights in the scene, as I said, the spotlight and the sky dome light. And the sky dome light currently is at 0. Nothing here, nothing here, intensity. But the spotlight is very strong. Intensity, exposure it's called here, of 20. So let's reduce the exposure of the spotlight right here. Which is an interesting effect as well, because now the outlines and the edges of the AI Toon shader certainly play a much more important role. So we're down to 8 now. Let's try 12. This is a much more balanced picture. Only one light working in the scene. Now let's reduce the exposure here to 0, so it's black. You see the outlines, the orange edges of our geometry. So let's raise the surrounding. That makes that nice diffuse shading of the Arnold shader with a sky dome light. Here you see lots of grain, which has to be cleaned up, and if it's still not enough, you go to the render settings, which is right here, this icon, and increase the camera anti-aliasing. These are the two lights here in the scene and nothing else really. So let's keep the Skydome light pretty dim, maybe like this, and raise the exposure of the spotlight. So here you see the influence of the spotlight. That's the shadow in the background, and this is the Toon shader working here with a ramp basically, and that's what I wanted to show you. Two lights in the scene and so different lighting situations possible.